The sound of poker chips clinking, the excitement of a winning hand, the smell of cigars and cheap whiskey, it all started to take over my life. What began as a way to escape the pain of reality turned into an addiction that almost destroyed me. Gambling, which used to be just a fun distraction, became something I couldn't live without, all because of one devastating betrayal. I'm Mark, 29 years old, and everything changed when I found out my wife, Jenna, was cheating on me. We had built a life together filled with respect and shared dreams, or so I thought. But when I discovered her affair, it felt like my world was falling apart. The pain of betrayal was unbearable, and it led me down a dark path I had never experienced before. Before I knew it, I was seeking comfort in the casino, thinking it could help me escape the pain. The warning signs were subtle at first. Jenna, 30, started spending more time away from home. I tried to brush off her excuses, work commitments, late meetings, social events. But as time went on, I noticed a pattern. She was always on her phone, her texts were short and vague, and our conversations became strained. I attempted to dismiss my escalating suspicions, rationalizing that perhaps she was simply stressed from work or that I was being overly paranoid. After all, I had my own challenges to contend with. My job had become a relentless source of pressure, and I found it increasingly difficult to juggle my professional responsibilities with my personal life. The weight of my obligations was burdensome, leaving me too exhausted to discern the subtle changes in our relationship. However, one evening, everything shifted. I arrived home early, hoping to surprise Jenna with a special dinner and potentially reignite the warmth that seemed to have dissipated from our connection. Instead, I was confronted with a scene that pierced me to the core. There, in our living room, stood Jenna in an intimate embrace with another man. Their laughter felt like a cruel mockery of the love and trust that I had once held dear. The shock and anguish were all-encompassing. I stood frozen, unable to process the betrayal unfolding before my eyes. Jenna's gaze met mine, revealing a mix of guilt and astonishment, but the damage had been done. The trust that had once anchored our relationship had been shattered. Our relationship was shattered beyond repair. It felt like my whole world had fallen apart. The stability and love I once took for granted were gone, replaced by a cold, harsh reality. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and heartache. Jenna left without a word, packing her things and moving out. The emotional impact hit me hard, realizing that my marriage, the foundation of my life, was now in ruins. I was left alone, trying to make sense of the betrayal and the overwhelming sense of loss. To escape the pain and harsh reality, I turned to gambling. It started innocently enough, just a visit to the casino to distract myself. But it quickly became an obsession. The excitement of the games and the hope of winning big consumed me. I threw myself into gambling, hoping that a big win would fix everything. The thrill of the game was a temporary escape from the emotional turmoil I was going through. As time passed, gambling became more than just an escape, it became a compulsion. The more I lost, the more I felt the need to keep playing, convinced that one big win would change my life. I spent all my money on slots, poker, and roulette, each game a desperate attempt to find redemption. My finances took a hit, bills piled up, and my once stable life turned into a mess of debt and despair. My friends, who used to have my back, started to drift away as they couldn't bear to see me fall deeper into my addiction. I was slacking at work, missing shifts, and ignoring my duties just to chase that next big win. The only thing that stayed constant was the casino, where I sought comfort in the false promise of hitting it big. Then, one night, everything turned around. I was at the poker table, feeling the weight of my losses bearing down on me. The room was filled with smoke from cigars and the quiet chatter of other players. The dealer shuffled the cards, and for a moment, I dared to hope. When the cards were revealed, I couldn't believe my luck, a royal flush. I had won a whopping $10 million. That win changed everything. For the first time in ages, I felt like I had some control and a shot at a better future. I paid off my debts, made amends with creditors, and even started dreaming of a fresh start. The money gave me a second chance to rebuild the life that had crumbled after Jenna's betrayal and my spiral into addiction. Just as I was starting to find my footing, Jenna showed up out of the blue. Her return caught me off guard. I had been moving forward, focusing on my recovery and making progress, when she knocked on my door. Her presence brought back memories of the past, and her timing felt like a cruel twist of fate. As the weeks passed, my $10 million win started to change my life in ways I never imagined. At first, it felt amazing to pay off my debts and experience the thrill of newfound wealth. But rebuilding wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. Instead of splurging on flashy things, I opted for a modest and cozy home. I also invested in a small business to keep me busy and provide a steady income. The first few months were a whirlwind of activity. I worked with financial advisors to manage my wealth, made sure I wouldn't fall back into old habits, and focused on rebuilding my life. I surrounded myself with supportive friends, reconnected with old acquaintances, and took things one step at a time. Despite all the progress, the pain from Jenna's betrayal still lingered. I tried to focus on the positive changes and the future I was creating, but her departure and my gambling past haunted me. When Jenna unexpectedly showed up at my door, it was a shock. Seeing her again brought back a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, and something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It was surreal to face her now, with my life slowly getting back on track. Her presence reminded me of who I used to be before everything fell apart. Jenna's unexpected arrival caught me off guard, and her true intentions quickly became clear. She expressed regret, admitting to her mistakes and the difficulties she had faced since leaving. Her apology seemed genuine, but there was an underlying desperation in her plea for reconciliation and a share of my fortune. Her words were carefully crafted to tug at my heartstrings and make me question my decision to cut ties with her. As I listened to Jenna, each word felt like a fresh wound reopening. She spoke of her struggles after leaving, painting a picture of financial hardship and loneliness. It felt like she was trying to rewrite our history to justify her current situation. She didn't shy away from admitting her need for money and her desire to reconnect with the life she had left behind. The contrast between her sorrowful eyes and her ulterior motives created a conflicting mix of emotions that was hard to process. Reflecting on her visit, I couldn't ignore the weight of our shared past. Jenna had played a significant role in my life, and her return wasn't just about seeking forgiveness, it was about gaining access to my wealth. I recently came into some money. The emotional struggle I experienced was overwhelming. On one hand, I wanted to assist and show empathy towards her difficulties. On the other hand, I felt a strong need to protect the new life I had worked so hard to create, a life that had been greatly impacted by her betrayal. The peak of all this drama happened when Jenna straight up asked me for money. She sounded shaky as she poured out her sob story, painting a picture of how broke she was. She mentioned debts, bills piling up, and how badly she needed some cash. Her words were full of desperation, but deep down, I could tell she just wanted a piece of the money that had changed my life. The whole situation was super intense. My heart was racing as Jenna laid out her case, trying to justify why she needed my help. It felt like she was crossing a line by challenging the boundaries I had set to keep my finances in check. The hurt from her past betrayal and the struggle to get back on my feet were now mixed with this unexpected request, showing me she was trying to take advantage of my success. "Mark," Jenna said, her voice breaking, "I'm really going through it. I messed up, but I need your support. I heard about your big win, and I'm hoping you might be willing to share some of it. I know I screwed up, but I'm asking for a chance to make things right." It felt like a cruel joke when Jenna asked me for money. She had walked out on me, leaving me to deal with my own issues, and now she was standing in front of me, begging for the money I had earned while trying to move on from our past. I was hit with a mix of emotions: anger, pity, and a strong desire to protect what I had worked hard for. It was a moment that made me reevaluate my feelings towards Jenna and set boundaries for my own well-being. In the end, I made a tough decision to protect my newfound stability and my own self-worth. I told Jenna that while I understood her struggles, I couldn't let my past control my future. My journey from addiction to recovery was full of obstacles, and I wasn't willing to risk the stability I had worked so hard for just for someone who had caused me so much pain. When Jenna left, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I knew that moving forward meant letting go of the past, no matter how hard it was. Her return made me realize the choices we had made and the consequences we faced. It was a reminder that recovery wasn't just about money, but also about healing emotionally and growing personally. As Jenna walked away, I felt a renewed sense of clarity. My focus was on rebuilding my life and maintaining the balance I had achieved. I was determined to stick to the lessons I had learned and protect the future I was building. The journey had been tough, but it showed my strength and determination. With the past behind me and the future ahead, I embraced the new chapter of my life with cautious optimism. I knew there would still be challenges, but I was ready to face them with the wisdom gained from my experiences. Betrayal had a high cost, but it also gave me the determination to create a better, more meaningful life.